All right, Craig, let's jump straight into this. After working with literally thousands of entrepreneurs from around the country and probably around the world, what would you say is the biggest marketing mistake that you see them making that if they weren't making that mistake, they would be far more successful?
It's a great question. The number one thing I think is that most businesses don't test against the results that they're already getting. So let's just say they're doing something and it's producing a result. They don't test against that one thing to see if they could get a better result. So my philosophy is about getting leverage on what you're already doing. That is, get a far better result for the same time, money, and effort. So if people are running an advertisement in a paper or a publication or even on Facebook, and they're getting a result, meaning they paid $100, let's say, and they get one lead. It's like, okay, we're satisfied that's generating one lead. Well, let's test a different headline, a different offer, a different proposition, a different guarantee, a different format, one at a time, by the way, and let's see if we can get a better result. Most people just stay satisfied with the results, and there's so much more opportunity for them out there.
That's great. And want to dive into some of that in just a second. But first, I'd like to introduce you, Craig, to all of our audience out there that's listening. So Craig is the founder of Enhanced Marketing Performance. And he's literally worked with entrepreneurs from across the country, helping them not only grow their top line, but also grow their bottom line, their revenue. And the way they do that is through being strategic with marketing. And I'm excited because marketing is a passion of mine. I'm excited to dive into some of these topics today. And let's just jump straight back in, Craig, to something you just said, which is in the marketing world, that would be called the control piece, right? We're trying to beat that control piece. Talk about, again, the obvious reasons why that is so important and how doing that, testing against that control or trying to beat the control piece, why that's so important to your entire marketing program or an entire marketing strategy.
I was taught at a very young age in my career that never to settle for what you get, never settle for the results that you get, because there's always a way to do better. And if you can't find it, you should always be searching for it. And so it all started with, it's funny, it all started when I was a young kid, when I was an entrepreneur as a teenager. And I made a little bit of money selling popcorn for Cub Scouts or something like that, or Weebelows. And I would say one thing. My dad was with me, and we'd go up to the door, and I'd say one thing, and some people would say yes, some people would say no. He goes, try this. Try saying this next time you go up. And I forget what I said, but I said something different, and all of a sudden I got a lot more. Instead of basically saying, would you like to buy my popcorn and supports the Cub Scouts, it's like, how many bags of popcorn would you like to buy? Just changing it up slightly different. And that enhanced my results tremendously. So I got that philosophy at a very young age. But I also learned over time that just because you say something in an advertisement doesn't mean that's the best way to say it. Doesn't mean that's the best way to propose an offer or to get people to say yes and raise their hand and say, I want to buy. Sometimes we have to go and say one way, and then we say it another way, and that may produce a better result. Maybe it doesn't. So we got to say, okay, maybe the offer is not irresistible enough. Can we test one offer versus another and maybe add some bonuses to it? And that will generate more sales. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Maybe in one ad we have a guarantee or we don't have a guarantee that says we'll honor you, if you're not happy, we'll refund all your money back. But in the other one we do, and that generates 10 times or 20 times or 30 times the response. So it's just become something that's been ingrained in me that I live and I teach every single person that comes through my path is to just try something a little bit different. Test one thing against another.
Yeah. And one thing to kind of piggyback on what you said in that original answer, your initial answer was don't split test 14 different things at once. Like you just said, pick or choose the one thing. And from your perspective, and I know this is not, there's not one right answer to this, but for those listening out there today, and they hear you say, okay, we've got this piece out here running, this ad out here running, and it's not performing the way we hoped it would, where would you say would be a good initial point to begin kind of experimenting or testing?
Well, first I want to make sure that we're getting a result. So depending on the media that you're getting, you want to say, are people responding at all from what we're doing? So you need to have a direct response element to your, excuse me, to your ad. And a direct response element just means we need to be able to track if people are responding to this ad or not. And so many times you'll see a phone number that is specifically for that ad. You might see a coupon code. You might see a name, ask for Mary when you call, and each ad that you're running in a different publication might have a different person to ask, and that's just, you know, their code for tracking the ad. So we need to make sure that the ad is actually working, whether it's generating one response or 10. We need to make sure it works. So the media is important. Is it working first and foremost? Let's just say it is. So what I would start with is the headline. You know, every ad must have a headline, because people scan, you know, let's say it's a newspaper. People scan and they're not looking at your ads. What they're looking at, they're not looking at every article in a paper, let alone that. So that's why headlines are so important in Cosmo magazine and LA Times and New York Times and all those things, is people are scanning to find the stories that create curiosity or interest, personal interest, especially in them. So when you're scanning, make sure there's a headline in your ad. And by the way, most newspapers or publications that are designing your ad are not going to do that. They're not going to automatically put a headline. They're going to design it to make it look good. You have to tell them to put the headline on top. So let's just say the ad that the people designed does not have a headline. Test the one, you know, the same ad, but put a benefit stated headline on top and see which one generates the better response. And again, if you're going to test one ad versus another, make sure there is a tracking device that can tell which one came from which one. And again, it could be a phone number, it could be a code, could be a name, or something to that effect. I would say it starts with the headline.
No, that's definitely great. But before we talk about headlines, and you kind of mentioned it briefly in your answer there, was you talked about something called direct response marketing. Most people, I'm surprised that most entrepreneurs, most business owners aren't familiar with direct response marketing when you ask them or mention it to them. So if you could you just briefly explain the difference between what direct response marketing is versus what most people believe marketing is?
Yeah, a lot of people do what we call institutional type marketing or advertising. And that is what they think is their branding. So they're putting out their company name. Hey, we exist. We serve, you know, for a restaurant, for instance, hey, we exist. This is the name of our restaurant. We serve Mexican food. Come in any day, Monday through Friday. And there's no call to action, no reason to come in now. There's no deadline. This offer ends Friday or whatever. So what I just said, those last three things those are measurable, accountable, and timely things that inspire people to action. A direct response ad, number one, might have a headline. That headline is a benefit stated headline that grabs someone's attention and then lures them down the rest of the ad. Every sentence should lead the person to the next sentence, or every piece of word or graphic or anything should lead people down what it would call a slippery slope. But the elements of a direct response ad are meant to, number one, get you to take action now if it interests you, if it's timely, if it's relevant to your life. It's supposed to be there should be a call to action, which says, you know, cut out this ad in our paper, bring it in, or call this phone number to reserve your reservation, mention this code. You know, again, it's trackable. It gets you to take action. But the most important part of a direct response ad, aside from the call to action and the measurable part, is having an irresistible offer. And that irresistible offer is meant to make you feel like I'd be foolish not to respond to this right away, especially if it's timely in your life. So for instance, it's my wife's anniversary, it's our anniversary, and I want to take her out for dinner. And I'm looking through the paper and it says, hey, you know, when was the last time you took your wife out for a date? You know, or something like that. And, you know, that's perfect, especially for the restaurants that cater to couples or romanticism or something to that effect. We have a special for you. If for your anniversary, come in and we'll give you this, and this, and we'll even give your wife a flower to say happy anniversary. Come on in, reserve your spot. You know, again, it's personalized for the person most likely to read it. And so if I was having an anniversary on that date and I saw that, I'm going to go for it. but it's got to tell me the benefits. It's got to tell me how to respond right now. And it's got to tell me why I need to respond right now. This offer ends, let's say on Valentine's Day, or, something to that effect.
Yeah, no, it's great. I love direct response marketing, and you're, as they often say down here in the South, you're preaching to the choir here, because I love just hearing it, and I love when other people understand direct response marketing. When you think of irresistible offers, right? So when you think of crafting that or helping your clients craft an irresistible offer, where do you start with that, or how do you begin that conversation to identify what is something that could, for our business, for our organization, become an irresistible offer?
Well, again, it starts with, I was listening to Russell Brunson, who's the founder of ClickFunnels and the author of several books on the subject of marketing and direct response and all those things. He's a brilliant guy, but he says, generally an irresistible offer starts with the value being at least 10 times more, or the perceived value being 10 times more of what you're initially buying. So in a video I just watched, he had a phone. He goes, how many people would buy my iPhone? And it's like iPhone is $600. He goes, how many people here have iPhones, and how many paid about $600? Then he says, how many people would buy it just like that? And they said, no. He goes, what if I told you on my iPhone, I have every recording from every guru out there for the last 10 years. Some are not even public anymore. Some are old school. Some are everything. But I've had my brother rip every audio and put it onto my phone. So the value there is about $750,000. Now, how many people would raise their hand, do that? He goes, but wait. He goes, what if I told you that I have phone numbers of Tony Robbins in here, Tim Ferriss, Dean Graziosi, and yada, yada, yada. He went down the list. And all you have to do is pick up the phone and say, hey, I just bought Russell's phone, and he told me to give you a call, because your number's in there. Now how many people would pay, a lot of money for the $650 phone or whatever. So the point is, that's hugely valuable. The phone itself is $600, but now the phone is worth $1 million because it has all those other things in there. And he did this in front of a live audience and showed that people were willing to pay like 50 grand or something like that for the phone. It's just a phone. But the value of what's on the phone that you can't get anywhere else, or the perception that you can't get it anywhere else, that's where the value builds. So that's how you build an irresistible offer. It's like, what is perceived that I can't get this anywhere else, and I better grab it because I think I might not be able to ever get it again.
Yeah, no, that's a great example of how to add or stack value, as it's often called, for that specific audience. And I think that's an important point as well, is that you can't create an irresistible offer if you don't first understand your audience. Right. Because you could take that same phone and go to a different audience, and they're not familiar with Tony Robbins or Tim Ferriss or any of these people, nor would they necessarily care. So the phone is still just a phone. And that's why it's critical. And I know you agree with this, and it's part of what you do, but it's helping them identify as well the audience, right? The right audience to target, so that you can, in direct response marketing terms, get them to quote unquote raise their hand, right?
Right.
What would you say, just kind of a hypothetical situation here, but let's say a company comes to you and they have very little money. So they're kind of struggling here to get started. I'll let you pick kind of the industry or the niche that maybe they're in, but they have very little money. They don't have a ton of time. So in other words, they can't just do marketing full time. What advice or what guidance would you give them to start getting traction with their marketing? Where should they start? Where should they begin?
That's a great question. And I'm a very big direct mail person, direct marketing person. But I understand, there's people who have been in their profession for so long, they know how to do their profession very well, but they're not really schooled on marketing. So I would say, start learning marketing. But in the meantime, this internet thing we have has allowed us to be able to do exactly what we're doing now, put video on social media, put it on, YouTube, put it all over the internet. And the best thing that I can suggest someone do is start offering goodwill, meaning start talking about your product or the problems that your audience is having in their lives, and share some ways to solve that problem. A lot of people, a lot of business owners are afraid that if they reveal how to solve the problem, then why would I ever hire you? No, just the opposite. What you're doing with video especially is, and you can do this right on your phone. You don't need any high tech equipment. You don't even need your laptop, really. I'm on my laptop. I think you're on yours. It's just like, you don't need that. You can use your phone and just talk to the camera as if you're talking to your ideal prospect and say, hey, I'm Craig Valine, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about this problem that I know people are having. In fact, one of my clients, drop the seed that you work with clients, one of my clients had this problem too. Let me tell you a little bit about it. And then here's what I told him to do. And he solved that problem, and now everything's okay. So we call that the problem, agitate, solve formula. If you're familiar with Dan Kennedy, that's his number one copywriting technique. But it's present the problem, agitate the problem, like this is what happened when he didn't do anything about it, or he tried to fix it, and the solution was this, and I proposed it, or something to that effect. So you want to provide, bond with your audience through video. Build that like, know, and trust factor. Offer goodwill. Present the problem that they may be having in their life. Show how you solve that problem. And then just give them a simple call to action. Hey, if you liked that information that I just shared with you on how to solve this problem, give us a call. It could be about whatever business it is. It does not matter if you're a coach or a consultant or a web company or a concrete vendor. I deal with, one of my clients is one of the top companies that deals with concrete washout on the job site, at the plant, and on trucks. And we do this thing all the time. I do it with a prosthodontist, restorative dentist in here in LA. I've done it with many, many clients. And it's simple as just being humble and being yourself and bonding with your audience. Now, let me tell you what you can also do with that. Not only can you put it on Facebook, put it on LinkedIn, put it on Twitter, put it with all those other places, but in YouTube especially, but you can extract that audio and make it a podcast. You can transcribe that audio and turn it into a blog post, a Facebook post, break it up into chunks and turn it into a social media post. So that you can all do for free. And if you have a little money, you could turn that video into a little Facebook ad for $1 or $2 a day and get it out specifically to the people you want to get it to. But if you had no money at all, just putting that content around all those spaces that I just talked about, if people go to say, who is this Craig Valine? And they type in my name, all of a sudden they're going to see this content everywhere. Oh my God, he's everywhere. And we call this omnipresence. And so you want to be omnipresent wherever your people are going to be looking for you. And the best place they're going to look for you, or the first place they're going to look for you, is on Google. Where can I find them? And if your content is everywhere, you're going to show up everywhere. So that's what I would recommend.
That's great. And it kind of leads into another question, which would be this: if, say, I'm the busy entrepreneur with limited budget, and you may have just answered this question, so I want to kind of confirm this, and I were to say, look, I'm so busy, don't have a ton of money, but give me one thing that I can do each day to progress my marketing, to get better with my marketing, or to get my message out there. What is the one thing that you would say, at least start doing this on a consistent daily basis? What would that thing be?
That's a great question. I email my list every day. So number one, if I may, I know you just asked me what's the one thing, but I'm going to add a couple bonus things. If you don't have a list, an email list, you should build one. You should be adding all your prospects to your list with their notice. They know they're doing it because they're requesting information. And you could put out anything in the videos that you're doing. You could say, hey, if you'd like more tips like this, just go to your website and enter your email address, and we'll send you a free bonus, or we'll send you a free report, or we'll send you these videos every day. But so constantly build your list. Your list is the most valuable asset in your business, of people that are interested in the topic, number one, but most interesting for you, they're most interested in you. They want to hear about you. They want to connect more. I have people with me for over 13 years that I can send out an email in a moment's notice, and I can get sales. I can get people to buy, raise their hand and say yes. But more importantly, I'm building a trust, and I'm building a bond with them over time. And it's that relationship that really is the asset in the business. So, we did say that keep on sending videos, sending out content. I send out an email every day, every weekday, to my list, and I rarely get any unsubscriptions. It's content, it's bonding. There's a story. Don't just sell your product, tell a story. If you can connect it to your own life as a person and as a business owner, or if you can share a story about a customer experience that they had. And then again, just at the end, say, if you'd like to learn more about my product or service, just go to, and then enter your web address. Just remember, what I do with my emails, though, is I will take that content and then post it on Instagram, post it on LinkedIn, post it on all my Facebook pages, put it in my private Facebook groups. I put it everywhere. So again, that I'm omnipresent. So one piece of content can be used multiple times, multiple places. And then, so what I can also do, go back, because I write these emails, what I can also do is go back and create videos about these later on. And then that's more content on the same thing. The core fundamentals remain the same. The things that I teach, I just might share it with another story, another example, or a personal example. So.
Yeah, no, all that's great. I hope everyone watching is taking notes and jotting down some ideas, because again, everything that you're sharing are simple things that, like you said earlier, you don't have to have fancy technology. You can literally get your phone and make these things happen. And fortunately, technology has gotten less and less expensive, less and less complicated when it comes to setting up what would be called a landing page or a squeeze page where people can go and opt in for your list. But one thing I kind of want to circle back to that you mentioned, because it's so refreshing to hear, is you said in that answer, you said that your list as an entrepreneur, and you went a little bit further and kind of clarified it's the relationship with the list that is the biggest asset or the most important asset a company or an organization has. Expand on that just a little bit, because it's so refreshing to hear that. It's not something that we as business owners are reminded of regularly enough. We tend to kind of neglect the list because we're so busy doing the thing that we do, fulfilling the product, fulfilling the service, or whatever it is. So talk a little bit why and how the list is the most valuable asset that an entrepreneur has.
Yeah, the most costly endeavor in business is the cost to acquire a customer. So what we have to do is when we get that person who raises their hand and says, I'm interested in what you have to say, it's very much like a personal relationship. If you met a man or a woman that you say, hey, she's cute, I'd like to make her my wife someday. Well, that starts with a conversation, and starts with a regular conversation. If she's the barista at Starbucks, we're going to go in and say hi to her every day, and we're going to get the coffee, and we might flirt with her, and we might share a story or something, and then eventually that leads to a date, and that date could be a small offer or something to that effect. It's very, very much like the way you build a relationship with a loving partner. What most people do is treat it like a booty call. Forgive me for using that expression, but it's a point, like a one-night stand. So we're in the business of building long-lasting life customers versus just making sales. We make a sale to get a customer, a long-lasting, person, full of lifetime value. Most businesses are treating it just a one-time experience. So when we get them, we have to communicate with them on a regular basis. Some people don't like receiving emails, so they tend not to email their list. You can't use your own bias about that for something that works. So we have to communicate on a regular basis, provide value, just the same thing I said as the video. We want to bond, we want to create goodwill, we want to share valuable information with them, and then we want to have a call to action. So I'm constantly building my list. I'm constantly growing it because I want to add to it, but I'm also adding value to that list and making offers to those people. The other thing that we want to do is we want to segment the list to people who have bought in the past because they're more valuable than the people who haven't, but each one is still valuable. The people who might have bought a significant amount of money. I just sent out an offer today, and the person I knew was going to buy the product first did, and he bought the annual option. So he gave me the most value right away. And I knew he would. And there's a couple others that I know will by the end of the day. But that's because I've nurtured this relationship over time. Now, if you were to sell your business right now to another web company, another online marketing company, most likely they already have the equipment and things that you have. What they're going to buy is your list of customers so they can extract that value from them as well. And so that's what we, as any business owner, has to concentrate on at least a portion of our time every day, every week. I do email daily. Some people do it weekly, but I would say don't do it any less than weekly if you really want to have that relationship.
Yeah, no, all that's great information, and you're right. So often we neglect the relationship. We just think in terms of the sale, move on to the next sale, move on to the next sale, and it's so important that you nurture those relationships. You ask any small business owner, where do most of your new customers or clients come from? And the thing they will tell you is word of mouth or referrals.
Right.
And yet they have no plan of action. They have no systems or processes around how do we actually nurture customers or clients and turn them into what the term we would use would be evangelists. So people that go out and intentionally share what it is that we're up to and what we do.
Right. I would say that hope is not a strategy and word of mouth is not a strategy. It's luck to get word of mouth. Now, referrals can be turned into systems where you condition people to refer for you, or this is how we do business. So, we promise all this benefit to you, but in return, we expect you to refer two people of similar character to yourself. And not only does that revere them as being of great character, but it says, I'm going to give you so much value that all we're asking for is this little tiny thing. And that's just two people of similar character to yourself. And that's very popular among chiropractors, dentists, anybody in the service profession. But you have to get used to that. The problem with when I go to like chamber events or I go to networking lead events or breakfasts and things like that is those people are generally not marketers. Generally, now there are exceptions, of course. They are in the business of getting leads, exchanging leads. So that's not typically my customer. But the thing that I hear from them I said, how do you get most of your business? They say word of mouth. They're struggling because you cannot rely on hope. Hope is if, hey, you're at a party and say, hey, I need a new gardener. It's like, hey, I've got a gardener. That's excellent. I'd love to refer you to them. So it's word of mouth is more like luck. Now, referral systems we can create and we should do it strategically. And I do that very often. Number one, to teach people to refer in advance, teach them that as a condition of doing business with you. But the second way would be after the sale is done, after the first transaction is done, and basically close the books and say, gosh, working with you was so great. If I could just hit the repeat button every time, I would get a client just like you. And I don't know if you know this, but we don't advertise. We get referrals from people just like you who have done business with us, who are happy and love our service. I don't know if the conversation should ever come up, but if it ever does, at the golf club, at the store, at school, would you do me a favor? If that conversation should ever come up about financial advice, retirement, whatever, would you tell them, you know what, give our guy a call, Craig. He's a good guy. He's the guy who helped us solve our problem and we couldn't be more happy with him. Give him a call. Here's his number. Would you do that for me? That's strategy. That is thought out. It's scripted. And most people have to think these things out before they do it. If you wing it, you're never going to make it. You just have to be strategic about what you do in order to be successful.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it's exactly what you said. It's simple. Saying that phrase is so simple, but it takes the discipline, it takes the system, it takes the process to ensure that every time the sale is closed, that question or that statement is being asked or said to that particular person. Craig, as we wrap up here, I've got two last questions for you. The first one might be dangerous, but the first one is, are there any marketing books that you would recommend for business owners, for entrepreneurs to, if they want to kind of start learning maybe about direct response or copywriting or any of the things that we've been talking about, getting referrals? Are there any books that you would recommend they jump into?
Yeah, I've been taught by some fantastic people in the world. If you're not necessarily an online business, but you're a business that operates in the offline and online world, I would recommend getting any of Dan Kennedy's books. The Ultimate Marketing Plan by Dan Kennedy was the first book that I found in a bookstore in Boston, Mass. Back in 1998. It's a great book. Actually, not 98, 94, excuse me. But it's in its fourth edition. It's a great book. Dan Kennedy is one of the foremost direct response marketers in the world. He also has a book called The Ultimate Sales Letter, which can give you basic strategies on how to write a sales letter, even how to write an email that sells, and how to write website copy, and how to write a direct mail piece. Those are two of my books. I wish they were my books, but they're his books that he wrote. But I give them as gifts to my members whenever they get involved with my membership and stuff like that. I would say start there if you're not familiar with most other marketers.
Yep. So Dan Kennedy, the first one was the Ultimate Marketing Plan.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second one was
The Ultimate Sales Letter.
It's Ultimate Sales Letter.
They're available
Excellent.
on Amazon.
Yeah, I'm a huge Dan Kennedy fan, was a part of their inner circle for, I don't know how many years, a lot of years. And as a matter of fact, one of our team members is actually just starting the Ultimate Sales Letter today to help, kind of just learn copy and learn direct response copy specifically, because just because you're a good writer doesn't mean you're a good copywriter or good at writing sales. So one last question for you, Craig, as we wrap up is, where can people go to connect with you, to learn more about what you're up to, or maybe to sign up for your email list that you were talking about earlier?
Sure. The best places, if you're on Facebook, my Facebook page is facebook.com/NoBS Craig Valine. And my last name is V as in Victor, ALINE. So NoBS Craig Valine. And then I have a website, CraigValineMarketing.com. And you can learn more about what I'm doing there. I have a group here in Los Angeles. It was initially done just in Los Angeles because we were an in-person event, a community that met at a hotel here in Pasadena, and members from all over the Los Angeles area would come. We had about 162 members at one point, where we just help people and support them in their success. It's now become an online community, so people from around the country are joining. But it's called EMP Alliance VIP program, and really it's an online masterclasses with things that you can learn to be more successful. We have a support event once a month called the EMP Power Event, and that is what we give members the opportunity to brag about what they're doing, share challenges, get feedback. And then we have some tips and things like that on how to overcome them, kind of like a mini mastermind. We have a Mind, Body, and Soul live cast that goes on once a month in the private Facebook group, and then private call-in days. But it's just like, I'm just here to help people be successful. It's just, I struggled at one time in my life, and I wish I had this resource available to me during that time. And unfortunately, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on training just to get to where I am today. But I try to make it so that even the person with the lowest the least amount in their pocket can succeed and thrive. And I look forward to seeing those success stories.
Yeah. Well, Craig, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know you're busy. We will put links to your website in the description of this video as well. So again, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. Greatly enjoyed hearing another person who's passionate about marketing, direct response marketing. So I enjoyed our chat.
Thank you so much.
You bet. Talk to you soon.